What's up, Undisputed listeners? It's your boy, Sharpe. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay, where we always do something before two something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now back to Undisputed.
Welcome to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it.
Welcome to Undisputed Live from Los Angeles. I'm Jason McIntyre here. LeVar Arrington and Chris Broussard. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, man. Appreciate Skip, Shannon.
Good morning, fellas.
You guys having us on this week. Chris, Matt. It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, we're killing it.
It's been a pleasure,
all right, Russell Wilson has voiced his frustrations with the Seahawks several times this offseason and has been the subject of trade rumors since. According to Adam Schefter, the Cowboys are one of 4 teams that Russ would be willing to be dealt to in a potential trade. Wilson's agent says he hasn't demanded a trade yet, but he has a no-trade clause so he can dictate where he'd potentially be traded. Although Dak Prescott is coming off a serious ankle injury, his lone playoff win came against Wilson and the Seahawks. LeVar, should Dallas pursue Russ instead of settling on Dak?
I mean, it provides an intriguing storyline. The reason being is that if Dak is going for the amount of value for a contract that he's going for, and if they're heading towards a franchise tag, then do you embrace debate, like Lil Wayne said, and see if you can make something work where Dak and say something or something else goes to Seattle in exchange for Russell Wilson? It isn't beyond the realm of possibility. But if I am Dallas, I do want to keep and maintain Dak Prescott. And if I'm also Dallas, I do want to also leverage and use the fact that Russell Wilson has named publicly that he would have interest in coming to Dallas. This would be a heck of a landing place for Russell Wilson. B, now if I'm Dallas, I say, hey, if we're going to go to this price that you're going to go, you want us to go to this price tag, Chris? I'm going to go get Russell Wilson because I know he's proven he's got Super Bowl appearance, has played at a high level, Hall of Fame caliber guy, and probably can give me at least 6 to 7 more years of great football left, which gives me a win now mentality. I leverage this against Dak Prescott, even if it seems to be ugly, spiteful, mean, unethical, not fair. All is fair in war. And what's that? Business, that is. Yeah, that's business, Chris.
Look, we talked about this yesterday. I thought it was overblown, but now with this new information, it's not overblown. All right, Russell Wilson, his agent can say he hasn't asked for a trade or demanded a trade, but he has now. Mm-hmm. He's put, look, you guys in high school, did you ever date a girl who said she didn't want to break up, but she wants to date other people? Mm-hmm. That's what Russell Wilson is saying. I don't want to trade, but if you're going to trade me, here's like the 4 teams I'll go to.
Right, yeah.
I mean, he is, yes. Now that you've put it out there, that you've got your eye on these 4 cute teams, now it's a problem in Seattle now. And from Dallas's perspective, guys, look, I've always been a Dak Prescott fan. I'm big on intangibles for quarterbacks. And I think Dak has the intangibles in spades. But that said, I would go after Russell Wilson now if I'm the Dallas Cowboys. Number one, he's cheaper. Okay? His cap number for the next 3 years, $19 million, $19 million, $22 million.
Great point.
Obviously, Dak Prescott, you're going to be paying somewhere between $37 and $40 million
but
a
he would
year
want to renegotiate that, Chris. He would want to renegotiate that, though.
Well, but he's still got several years left. I mean, those are the cap hits. He got the huge contract.
But he can fight against that
But these are the cap hits for the Cowboys.
True.
Those would be the cap hits, so just on their cap. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, as much as I've liked Dak, I've never been under the impression that he's a top 5 quarterback or may ever be a top 5 quarterback. I think he's a quarterback you can win Super Bowls with, but he's not a top 5 guy. Russell Wilson is a top 5 guy. And what we know about Dak for sure, I've called him a game manager who can make plays, a playmaking game manager. So he manages the game, but unlike most game managers, he will make the big play sometimes with his legs or even with his arm. And when he had his most success in the league, when he was winning all these games and leading the Cowboys to the playoffs 2 of his first 3 years, he was a manager. The last 2 years, they've tried to put it on him and make him the guy. Zeke has declined a little bit, so now it's about Dak, and they haven't been able to win at the same clip. Even last year when he averaged 371 yards passing a game. Let's be honest. A lot of those yards came in the second half when the other teams had big leads. They were in a prevent, and Dallas was playing desperately to win the game. They scored 30 points in the second half against Atlanta. They scored 24 points in the fourth quarter against Cleveland. So they were down big, and that's where big chunks of those yards came from. So I'm not, as much as I like Dak, I'm not convinced he can carry my team if I don't have awesome pieces around him. With Russ, we've watched Russ guys for the last 6 years carry the Seattle Seahawks to relevance, to the playoffs 8 of his 9 seasons. I get it. The Super Bowl championships, or the when they got there, won the first one, lost the second one, he was largely a manager. That defense was awesome. You had Marshawn Lynch. I get all that. However, since then, he's proven, even if I don't have the great pieces around me, we're going to win. We might not win a Super Bowl, but we are going to win. And Dallas actually has good pieces, especially on the offensive side. So you put Russell in there, now you're really talking about a team that can do something in the postseason. So, yes, if I'm the Cowboys, buy Dak. Let's send you to Seattle.
No, don't buy Dak, but buy Dak. Don't buy Dak.
Buy. B-Y-E.
B-Y.
Okay.
B-Y-E. Listen, guys, I'm a little surprised you're not more like, pound the table, go get Russell Wilson.
Go get him.
I mean, Jerry Jones, are you kidding me? This is a division for the taking if Russell Wilson is your quarterback. He instantly makes you the team to beat in the NFC East. I don't know that there's any decision at all here. I say, Jerry Jones, pick up the phone. I say, hey, Seattle, you want our number 1 pick this year? You want our number 2? You want our number 1 in 2022? And this is where I really sweeten the deal, guys. I was breaking down the free agent options. Seattle has said everything in Pete Carroll's DNA. We want to run the football. We want to run the football and play defense. Yes, LeVar Arrington. I say Zeke Elliott, we had a good run, but I'm going to put you in that package. Zeke Elliott, 2 number 1s and a number 2. I bring in Russ. And that's the thing. I don't want to make it sound like I'm anti-Dak. But if I am Seattle, am I really taking on a quarterback that I'm going to have to pay more for? He's going to command more than Russell Wilson. Because it feels like, guys, this Russell Wilson stuff, there were a lot of breadcrumbs leading up to it. And then it's like you open the door and it's like, oh, my gosh. He threw his entire offensive line under the bus. Now, LeVar, I know you've been a locker room guy, a leader. You can't throw an entire offense under the bus in the offseason and expect to show up at camp all hunky-dory. It kind of feels like it's over for Russ in Seattle. And I'm telling you, this slam dunk in Dallas, Russ, the offensive line healthier, you keep Amari, you keep Gallup, you got CeeDee Lamb. Folks, Russell Wilson will cover up a lot of those ugly warts that Dak Prescott could not. And Chris, again, not to pile on Dak, you've been saying how he's won so many games. I had the stats team here, pull it up. Last 4 seasons, Dak Prescott, 6-20 against teams that finished with a winning record. For whatever reason, he did not show up great against the elite teams. Again, I'm not crushing Dak. I know the defense wasn't good, and we can talk about the special teams was inferior and the coaching was blah, blah, blah. But Russell Wilson is a massive upgrade over Dak Prescott. And LeVar, you know this division well, this NFC East. Russ instantly makes them a 10-11 win team. And I think you're talking back to Chris Broussard, this being a Super Bowl contender with Russell Wilson.
You want to talk about selling hope? I mean, I don't know what the rules are going to be, what the provisions are for COVID and attendance. They started doing attendance this season. So they were like, forget this. We're going to put some people in these stands. So I'm assuming it's going to be much more relaxed going into next season. Probably has to be more relaxed. And what better than to come out of a COVID year where we had to have so many restrictions on fans coming to our stadium and advertisers pulling ad dollars back and saying that this is more important and this is more important. And you say, no, this is important. We have Russell Wilson in the big D. Oh, my gosh. Let me tell you something. The amount of buy-in for Russell Wilson joining America's team, and I got to tell you, J-Mac, I like that, what you just said with Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know that Ezekiel Elliott will ever be the guy he once was when he was getting that contract, getting to that large contract in Dallas. He might go somewhere else, and that sting and that burn, that eat might really come back. It might not just be a tattoo on his belly, thug life, eat, you know what I mean? It might not just be that. It really might be it's time to eat. So you go somewhere like Seattle. So this might work out for Ezekiel Elliott if they're thinking right. This might work out for Dak Prescott if they're thinking about this right. You know why? Because that is the type of team that would be an amazing landing place for Dak Prescott and an Ezekiel Elliott. But Russell Wilson, with who you guys just said, CeeDee Lamb, gosh, Amari Cooper, Gallup.
Nobody throws a better deep ball.
They got a long, 6'7" tight end. This would help their offensive line greatly because I don't think they're the offensive line that they once were when we were calling this perennial all-pro Super Bowl caliber offensive line. They're banged up. They've aged a little bit. They've been figured out somewhat. People aren't intimidated by them. They're not slamming guys around like they once were. So when you look at what they bring to the table and you have someone like Russell Wilson who brings that accountability and raises that standard like you saw Tom Brady do in Tampa Bay, I think that would be just as big, if not bigger. It's probably a bigger coup than what you saw take place with Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay last offseason.
Ooh. I won't go that far. I like where you're at, LeVar. I won't go that far. Obviously, Brady led to a Super Bowl right away in the first year. But you are right in that he changes the attitude, the atmosphere of that team immediately. Obviously, he'd be the best Cowboys quarterback since Troy Aikman. And Troy Aikman obviously was the last guy to lead them to a Super Bowl. So here's what people don't understand. J-Mac said they'd be Super Bowl contenders. A lot of people might be looking at that thinking J-Mac's crazy. But this is the impact Russell Wilson has. Pete Carroll's a good coach. He was great in college, obviously. He hadn't done a lot in the NFL without Russell Wilson. He's coached 6 seasons in the NFL with 3 different teams, the Jets, the Patriots, and the Seahawks without Russell Wilson. And in those 6 years, he's had 2 winning seasons. Yeah. All right, in the 8 or 9 he's had with Russ, they've won double-digit games 8 of those years and made the playoffs 8 times. Russell Wilson changes things similarly to Tom Brady. Just his leadership, the way he galvanizes men in the locker room and they follow him. When he went to Seattle, and I get it. Like I said, the Legion of Boom was huge. All right? But Cam Chancellor.
Don't do it.
Earl Thomas.
Don't you do it.
Richard Sherman. No,
don't you do it, Chris.
Just let me say it.
Okay.
Just let me say it.
Okay.
Marshawn Lynch. All I'm saying is they were there the year before when Seattle was 7-9. They were. Now, they were young, so I'm not holding it against them, but I'm just saying they were there. It was when Russ got there And I know there was beef even between the defense and the offense and Russ and all that. But still, the dude is a winner. They had 4 straight losing seasons the year before he got there, 2 of them under Pete Carroll. Russ gets there and they go 11-5. Next year they win the Super Bowl. Next year they're in the Super Bowl. So this guy has major impact.
Yeah,
and I talk about it all the time. Intangibles, he got them. And as J-Mac said, he also throws a wicked deep ball. He scrambles. He makes plays with his legs. This is a no-brainer. Now, I don't know if Seattle would take Zeke. I hear you. They like to run the football. But obviously, Zeke doesn't look like Zeke right now.
I should add that
he's still relatively young. But would they take him? That's the only question. But
Hyde and Carson.
Do this if you're the Cowboys.
The 2 Seattle running backs are free agents. I know they're nothing special, but clearly Pete Carroll's theme was we want to run the football. He pulled the ball out of Russ's hands in the second half of the season after a couple turnover games against Buffalo and the Rams. But the thing about Dak Prescott, if I'm Seattle, I look around, DK Metcalf, 23 years old, Jamal Adams, 25. It feels, LeVar, like this team is almost starting over. Like the Legion of Boom is gone. The defense has had a lot of turnover. Bobby Wagner's now 30. KJ Wright is probably going to be lost in free agency. They're starting over. Their left tackle's 36. I don't expend the big money on Dak Prescott. I would rather have Zeke as the running back. Then you got DK, and you could draft a quarterback with the Dallas pick at 10, or maybe you go after someone a little, Marcus Mariota in free agency, if you will. Jameis Winston may hit the market. You can have him hand the ball off, not throw interceptions. There are options, and that would leave Dak with a Denver, a Chicago. He'll have options, but focusing on Dallas, Chris, you know this as well as anybody. Stars are great for the league. They're great for the TV networks. They're great for TV shows. LeVar Arrington will spend every single day on television talking about Russell Wilson and Jerry Jones. And Jerry is a gambler. Okay, I consider myself a little bit of a gambler. I do stuff on gambling for Fox Sports. I've always been an underdog, right? I'm willing to take chances. Jerry Jones became a billionaire. Look at his history by taking chances. I say, you want the three picks? Take them. Take Zeke Elliott. Give me Russell Wilson. LeVar, this has got to be the move for Jerry Jones. This is his chance.
I'm going to revisit not wanting to pay that big price for Dak, bringing him into the Seattle Seahawks team. Think of it this way. You have a ton of leverage as the Seahawks as well. If they're going to offer the franchise tag, and that's foreseeably the only thing that they're willing to offer Dak Prescott from what I'm hearing on reports. If you're offering that, and that's the number you have to absorb to take on Dak Prescott to unload Russell Wilson, but you get Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know how the numbers work. I'm not a capologist, so for all you cap nerds out there that want to holler at me and say I don't know what I'm talking about, I don't have the numbers just off the top of my head, just thinking about what this could look like. There's nothing better that Pete Carroll could do in losing Russell Wilson, as we've discussed on this show before, than replace that man with another person that you can sell tickets and sell hope with. Now, if you're able to parlay that and get Ezekiel Elliott some way, somehow, you're able to figure this out in a trade where you can get Ezekiel Elliott and you can get Dak Prescott all in the same clip, I do that. And the reason why I do it, if you recall, Buffalo had Marshawn, and Buffalo was okay with letting Marshawn get away. All right? So they've taken chances on guys that were talented guys that it didn't necessarily work out the way that it was supposed to work out where they were at previously. So to take a flyer and take Ezekiel Elliott and bring him in, he knows the history of what that running back's position represents in Seattle. And it's more current than Emmitt Smith's reputation and the ghost of Emmitt Smith running around in Dallas. So when you think about the relevance of what Ezekiel could do in resurrecting his career in a new place, what better place to go and be the type of runner that Ezekiel Elliott is than to go to Seattle? What better place for Dak Prescott to go than to go to a place where you watch Russell Wilson, who I would assume if Dak Prescott is measuring himself up against Russell Wilson, he's probably doing what Russell Wilson did when he was measuring himself up to Tom Brady, right, at that Super Bowl. Like, my measurables are better than Russell Wilson. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm faster, I'm younger. I have more to offer. So if I go to a place like this where I clearly see some stability and they believe and buy in their guys like they did in Russell Wilson, and I got DK Metcalf, I got Tyler Lockett, come on, man, and I'm bringing Zeke with me? Make the trade happen, guys. I have Dallas colors on 2 days straight, and I'm not even a Dallas fan, but I got it on because Tony Dorsett was my hero growing up, so I figured I'd rock this, and it's fitting for this conversation.
LeVar, look, if I'm going to do this, I would love to have you go speak to Dak and sell him on it. If I'm Jerry Jones and I'm like ready to do this, I'm calling LeVar Arrington and saying, look, I want you to go sell this to Dak Prescott because that was great.
Well,
but here's the problem.
But they've already sold him out, Chris, right?
If I'm Seattle,
they've already sold
LeVar,
Dak
if
out.
I'm Seattle, I don't do this if I'm Seattle.
Oh, wow.
I don't, because I have Russell Wilson, a better quarterback, and the age is really only about 4 years. Russ is 32. Dak will be 28 in July, I think. So it's only about a 4-year difference, really, between these guys. It's not that much. But Russ is a superior quarterback. I've got him for cheaper. I need to build around him. That's my problem. I really need to build around my guy so we can win for a Super Bowl, not just compete for the playoffs. And now I'm bringing in a lesser quarterback at more money, which is going to make it more difficult for me to build around him. No, and I'm telling you, all this 12th man in Seattle and this great home field advantage, that didn't exist before Russ. It didn't.
But it's there now.
I know they went to the Super Bowl years ago with Sean Alexander, who was a great running back. But Seattle Seahawks were a ho-hum, mediocre franchise. Every now and again, they make the playoffs, have a little run, but they had never had a franchise quarterback, and they really didn't have a lot of success until Russell Wilson got there.
The milk has gone bad,
I'm sorry. I'm trying to protect that. I got him locked up. I'd rather build the offensive line, build the defense, get me a running back, rather than give up Russ. Patch it up. Yeah. If I have to take Russ or Pete Carroll, I'm taking Russ. No. Patch it up.
Okay, but Chris, that's a good point. And LeVar, let me ask you. So is it past the point of no return with Russ in Seattle? Like you can't really say, I'm getting sacked too much. My line's not handling their business. And you can't really do that and then go face the guys a couple months later, can you?
You know what cottage cheese is, J-Mac?
I'm familiar with cottage cheese.
Y'all know what cottage cheese is made from? You have very few dishes left that you can make with the milk that has gone bad in Seattle, all right? So you can make a few things, you know. You can make a few things from that spoiled milk, but your limited menu is right there in front of you. So I'm looking at this as, is it repairable? Is it fixable? The more it comes out that it seems like it's soured between Carroll and Russell Wilson, the more I say, once that's hit the media, once that's happened, that means that they've already tried that exercise of trying to patch it up. I mean, and I don't see it getting any better.
We saw the Legion of Boom go after Russ. And, you know, maybe these guys are the drama kings of the Northwest. Like, it's always something going on in that locker room. But it didn't really end well with Richard Sherman, Chancellor, and Earl Thomas and Russ. They had to kind of say, defense, y'all are gone. And they kept Russ.
And so did their wins. Their wins went right along with the Legion of Boom.
Okay. Defensive guy, Broussard.
Their Super Bowl did, not the wins, not the wins.
Well, I mean, you know, once you won the Super Bowl, when you say wins, you got to win the Super Bowl.
No mercy.
Hey, Undisputed listeners, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com. Reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, are just one click away.
For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. Download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com.
Hey, Undisputed listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you.
Deshaun Watson and the Texans seem to be headed toward an inevitable divorce this offseason. It was reported yesterday that Watson met with new coach David Culley last week, but made it clear he still wants to be traded. Despite this, the Texans are avoiding trade conversations involving Deshaun, which could have led to this not-so-cryptic tweet from Watson, who wrote, quote, "Loyalty is everything. Don't you ever forget it." Chris Broussard, do you think Watson is still on the Texans roster by week 1 of next season?
Let me say this first. I'm glad that Deshaun Watson sat down with David Culley and met with him. You know, we hear talk a lot about wanting African-American head coaches in the NFL. I thought it would have been a bad look for Deshaun not to even give Culley a platform, let him even meet with him or talk with him. Even if he didn't want to play there anymore, I still think it was a good look, and I'm glad he did sit down and meet with David Culley. Now, this is tough. Because part of me is like, look, if you got a guy that is that adamant about leaving your franchise, then go ahead, as much as you like him, as good as he is, as young as he is, get a king's ransom for him. Trade him to the Jets and get the second pick and a host of first-round picks and rebuild your football team. You were bad last year with Deshaun. You can be bad without him. So that part of me says that, and that seems to be the logical thinking. But then there's the pride part of me. And pride says, hold up. We have all the leverage. The Houston Texans are not just blowing smoke when they say, we don't want to trade him. We have no intention of trading him. They have all of the leverage, guys. He's 25 years old. He just signed the 4-year, $156 million contract. His only option, if he doesn't want to play for the Texans, if they insist on not trading him, is essentially to retire.
Or sit.
He could sit out. Yeah, he could sit out, but even he could get fined. Remember, the new CBA, the fines cannot be forgiven. So all that, remember with Zeke, he sat out, all those fines daily for missing training camp and all that, those were forgiven. Now they can't be forgiven. He could lose about over $3 million if he sat out the preseason. All right? And then if he really wanted to play hardball and say, you know what, I'll retire rather than play for the Texans, they could demand, you know what, that $27 million signing bonus we gave you, we want 21.6 of it back. Yeah. All right, give us that money back. Then if Deshaun was like, well, I'll retire, if he wanted to come back at any point, guess who would have his rights?
They still
the Houston Texans. Yeah. And it wouldn't be just till 2025. The 4 years would start, or maybe even 5 years would start when Deshaun re-entered the league. So that's not even to mention, guys, that they could franchise him for 3 years. That's crazy, but if they want, they have his rights. He has no leverage. So that's the pride part of me. But all that said, I do think at the end of the day, Deshaun Watson will be traded before next season.
Mm-hmm. All right,
because you just don't want to bring that into your locker room.
Yeah.
And I know you can look at it theoretically and say, well, look, he'd have to play. He loves the game. He'd have to play at his best ability. It doesn't help him to go out there and mope and sulk and look bad. James Harden did it. James Harden had already established himself as a Hall of Fame player. All right, Deshaun Watson is young. He's building, so he can't really do that. You can say that in theory, but he's a human being. If he really doesn't want to be there, it's going to show, and he probably won't. Even if he tries to play his best, won't be at his best. So I think at the end of the day, they're going to trade him for a king's ransom.
It sets a dangerous precedence if they just continue to allow a player to force themselves out of the team situation. It doesn't work like that in the NFL. It works like that in the NBA. It's much different. He will be a Houston Texan. And here's what the Houston Texans are banking on, Chris and Mac. They're banking on the fact that a disgruntled, upset, over it, Deshaun Watson will have enough pride in himself and his abilities to not devalue himself or defame himself by playing pout ball. He's not going to pout. He's not going to. So the only option Deshaun has to really overcome not getting the trade that he wants is to sit out. That's the only way to overcome it. Because if they do not get rid of him and he is forced to play for this Houston Texans team, he will play. This was not about us being brothers when he went in there and saw David Culley. You know what this was about? This was about going in and appealing to the new head coach and letting him know that you have stepped into a situation that you have no idea how messed up, and not in those terms, that this situation is here in Houston. And I would suggest to you, you do the best that you can to figure it out so that you don't ruin your coaching career moving forward, because it could go so bad that you don't ever get another opportunity to coach as a head coach. As for me, Coach, please, if you have an ounce of care, sympathy, empathy, any type of compassion for me as a young man aspiring to be all that I can be in life and in this world to make a difference, please, Coach Sully, please allow me to have a trade, please. And that's what took place in that meeting. I can guarantee you, I've been there before.
I'm shocked that you guys don't think he's gone. I mean, they have basically 62 days left before the draft.
I just said he's
the
gone.
Texans will definitely trade him. Oh, well, okay.
Chris said he's gone. I'm saying he's going to be
First of all, LeVar, you know how this game works in the NFL, okay?
I do.
Deshaun Watson has one of the most powerful agents in the league. He got Jalen Ramsey paid big bank. Okay, if you set the precedent where you're Houston, you say we're not gonna trade you. You're gonna come play, and Watson says, "I'm not playing. I'm sorry. I'm gonna sit out." You lied to me. The owner looked me in the face and told me I could have input, and you'd listen to what I was saying, and you lied to me. And I can't. We can't get past that. And they just say, "Fine, we're not trading you. You can sit out." Watson has made it clear to a lot of reporters. You can read between the tea leaves, and you'll see that a lot of reporters are saying Watson is prepared to sit out the season. Now, maybe that's just negotiating, but LeVar, I think it's a horrible look for the Texans if they just say, fine, you could sit out, we're going to be crappy. What free agents are going to want to go there and play for that dumpster fire, that disaster in Houston, when you know they treat the players like crap, okay? That's a bad look for Houston. I think the team to focus on here is Carolina. And, Chris, you mentioned my Jets. I would love it, but I don't know if it's going to happen. Carolina has a new owner, a billionaire hedge fund guy. Okay, you know what these hedge fund guys do. First moves, right out of the gate, Ron Rivera, see ya. Cam, thank you for your service. These hedge fund guys look for distressed assets and flip them quickly. Deshaun Watson is exactly that, a distressed asset in Houston. He's waving the white flag. Please come and save me. These first-round draft picks, guys, are borderline overrated at this point. If you look at Carolina's last 4 first-round picks, okay, Derek Brown, Brian Burns, DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey. You're telling me you wouldn't flip that in a heartbeat for Deshaun Watson? These first-round draft picks, guys, I know they have value, but you shed 4 of them to Houston.
Just be careful on how you're talking about first-round draft picks.
Okay, I know there's a couple defensive guys in there. LeVar was a first-round pick.
Yeah, all right.
But
just be
Deshaun Watson, LeVar, he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. You do this in a heartbeat. Chris, the clock is ticking. I mean, they got to make a move here. There's no way they keep Watson and keep him on the bench. No way.
You're both wrong. You keep him.
Look, like I said, I get where you're coming from, LeVar, and I hear you. But J-Mac is right. The Houston Texans have a business to run.
Yep.
You know, if Deshaun sat out the season, if Deshaun retired, Yeah, they could pound their chest and say, we got him. We told him. We didn't let him, bulldoze us into trading him. But then your team is still jacked up. You don't have your quarterback, Chris, and you don't have the assets you would have gotten for him.
Why would Deshaun Watson put himself in economic distress? You got to keep in mind, this is only his second contract. That first contract money probably, let's be real, all right? Even if you're a good kid and you don't, and I'm not saying you're a bad kid if you spend your money. I'm just saying that rookie contract money is not hitting the same as this new contract. Why would you take away all, and this is very important, people, listen to this. Why would you give away all of your financial leverage by sitting out and disqualifying yourself of the contract that you've earned? That means all these other teams out here that get an opportunity to get a hold of you can play hardball with you on a different level than what they will right now. You have no leverage. If you sit out, you really have no, think about it this way. The reason why, because I know y'all think of like maybe Le'Veon Bell, he went and got paid, this, that, and the other. All right. If he sits out, and like you said, those penalties are not, they're not going to be forgiven. If you're saying I've played my last game there, you are putting yourself in an economic situation that there's no reason for you to do it. So if I'm Houston, I'm going to play that hand. I'm going to play that hand, and I'm going to say, look at it this way. Let me put it to you in terms like this. If I have LeBron James on my team under contract and he doesn't want to play for me, I'm banking on the fact that a LeBron James that is not happy with where he's at is still better than any other player that we would bring in here and try to replace him with. I'm not giving him away. If I'm Houston, there is nothing I can do to improve what I have right now, even if he's upset. So I'm just going to ride it out. If you're going to sit out, you got to sit out. You got to sit out, and we got to go from there.
I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I get it. But at the end of the day, like I said, they got a business to run. And here's the thing. Deshaun has been so adamant. Even that tweet that J-Mac posted, Instagram, whatever it was, about what, like, he's doubling down. Like, look, I'm not going back. And he's had the perfect opportunity, LeVar, to do it. He has had the perfect opportunity.
I agree,
you got
but
a
it's
new
not
GM.
on Deshaun.
You got a new head coach. He's had like, if he went and said, you know what, I like that they hired David Culley. I'm going to give him a chance. I was upset with some of the things that happened.
All the way off.
But I like the moves they ended up making.
Yeah.
He would have been able to save face. Nobody would have been like, oh, you were talking all that mess and you backed down, you caved. No, he would have been able to sell that things are okay now. He didn't do it. He's doubling down.
Somebody fractured that
LeVar, consider this, okay? The Houston Texans just lost the most popular player in franchise history in J.J. Watt. Okay, he's gone. Now you're going to lose and alienate Deshaun Watson? What are you telling your fans? You just told me last segment that Cowboy Stadium's going to be packed to see Russell Wilson.
That's right.
Who's buying a ticket to the Houston Texans when the owner treats the quarterback like garbage and the star player, J.J. Watt, says, get me the hell out of here, guys.
Understand.
Hook me up. If I'm a fan, I'm not showing up.
If you don't, fandom is very different. There isn't sensibility connected to fandom. It's
well,
they're fanatics.
I would agree with that.
So don't look for a sense where there is no sense to be had. Those fans will be there. And what they'll say is, you know what they'll say? Deshaun will get over it. Once he gets a few plays under his belt, a few games, Coach Sully, those guys, Culley, they'll have a good time together.
Can I quickly say something about Culley?
Sure,
He's been in the league for like 25 years. He's in his 60s. He's simply a bridge coach. You know what they want to do? They want to bring in the former quarterback McCown. They want to make him the next coach. That's why they interviewed him. This guy Culley is just a brief placeholder for a year or two. Like, it's almost embarrassing what they're doing to him. I'm off the reservation.
We'll see.
Chris ain't
weren't
like
those
that.
the same people saying McCown was going to be the offensive coordinator? The people throwing that out, weren't they saying he's going to be the offensive coordinator too, then the head coach? I mean, we'll see. What if Culley does well?
Oh, come
you
on.
know, I mean, let's see what happens. You don't have to hire a bridge coach.
All right,
Just hire McCown if that's what you want to do.
We'll stay in Houston.
They're tanking. They're tanking in Houston.
The J.J. Watt sweepstakes starting to heat up after reports emerged that Watt's top priorities in a new team are quarterback, supporting personnel, and money. New reports say that the three-time Defensive Player of the Year has received contract offers from multiple teams. And the most lucrative offer is believed to be in the $15 to $16 million range. LeVar, come on. Is Watt still worth $15 million for a contender?
Let's just say this. If that were true, then we would already heard the deal was being done. All right. So let's just be clear there. Like, bang. That's out of there. Blow that one. That's duck hunt right there. Blow that duck out of the sky.
Right.
There's not going to be a market that high for J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt is now what you would call a team coach, a player coach, right? You'll bring him in. You may be able to start him. He may have enough left. He played 16 games last year, if you believe that or not. He played 16 games. So you may be able to bring him in and have him play. That creates a presence. Are you looking at him, depending on what team you bring him to, he might even be your best defensive lineman on that team, depending on what team. But if you're talking about durability issues, if you're talking about other players on the team, he would have to have the most insanely perfect suitor to get in those type of numbers, because just where we're at right now with J.J. Watt, it really is about seeing if you can have somebody that can add to what you already have. Like I've heard Tampa Bay, I've heard Kansas City. You're talking about a guy who wants to leave Texas. He left the Texans so that he can have a chance to win. So that's a very small market that he's in for. If it's not just about going to get the money, which you would assume if J.J. Watt, with all the things that he said to the fans, to all the things that he said when he wanted to leave, him saying what he said to Deshaun Watson, it's about him wanting to get a championship and going to a championship caliber team. He's not going to be the main guy on one of those teams. So if he goes to one of those teams, he's not going to get main guy money either. So I don't even know why we would even be having them put reports out there that he's commanding top dollar. It's really not about commanding top dollar. It's about commanding the opportunity to say, I won a Super Bowl. I'm a 3-time defensive MVP. I'm a first ballot Hall of Famer once I retire. Now that I got this ring, I'm going to go retire into the sunset. That's what this is really about. I'm not really certain why there's a leverage or a politicking to actually push numbers up there and inflate the numbers for a J.J. Watt contract.
I agree with you, LeVar. And as a guy that's been a reporter, I know why, because it came from his agent.
Of course. But why are you doing it? You know what I mean? Why are you doing it?
I hear you. And look, like you said, J.J. Watt, first ballot Hall of Famer. Let's start here. We know that the Houston Texans are not a well-run organization. If there is a team out there willing to pay him $15 to $16 million a year, then why in the world didn't the Texans trade him?
Mm-hmm.
Why did they release him? Why didn't they just trade him and at least get a second-round pick for him? He had $17 million left on his deal. Another team could have taken that, and you could have got something for Watt.
Very good point.
That's number one. But number two, to your point, J.J. Watt, throughout his career, throughout this Hall of Fame career, what's been the one problem? Health.
Durability, yeah.
And he's going to turn 32 in March. I don't think, LeVar, correct me if I'm wrong, he's not going to get healthier as time goes on. Now, granted, he's played 16 games 2 of the last 3 years. That's phenomenal for him. But he's played 16 games 2 of the last 5 years total as well. So I don't know even if I'm getting J.J. Watt. Right.
9 sacks over 2
sacks
seasons.
the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's not very productive.
24 games for him. Yes, he's not going to be the J.J. Watt that is going to make the Hall of Fame for you. And the teams we're talking about, I've mentioned, I'd love to see him in Green Bay. Would love to see him in Tampa Bay. First of all, those teams don't even have the money. They got other priorities they need to get before they go ahead and pay J.J. Watt $15 to $16 million. Kansas City, the same, I would think, is the same boat. New Orleans, they don't have that money to give him. So, and Pittsburgh don't have that money to give him. Is Cleveland giving him that much money? I just don't see this happening. Yeah. And as you said, LeVar, J.J. Watt has said he wants to win.
And that's why you left.
It's not just about money. Money's in there. It's not just about money. So prove us right and go to a contender. No. Yeah. Come on. $15 million?
Yeah, this is a bad job by the reporter. The agent's just trying to drive up the price, saying, okay, JJ's putting out these tweets that we've narrowed it down. Let's see if people can follow the mitochondria. All these mysteries out there. And then the agent just calls up a reporter, and the reporter's just like, yeah, sure, I'll report this. Who cares if I'm getting used? And, 15, 16 million, LeVar, that's just not reality. And Chris made a great point. All the contenders are looking to lowball J.J. Watt. Hey, man, we'll bring you in. We'll give you $5 million, and with some incentives, we'll kick it up to 10. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Tampa Bay Bucks, they cannot afford 15, 16 mil. So if J.J. Watt wants to really win, he's going to have to take less money. Now, if he wants to go to a bad team and make a lot of money, great. But he's already made a lot, LeVar. This is just, I'm sticking with my prediction. J.J. Watt to the Kansas City Chiefs, playing on that line. Patrick Mahomes gets him his ring.
Yeah, I think another way to look at this, because football contracts are very different than other sports, right? So you get a contract in baseball, basketball, it's guaranteed. Like, you got to give it up, right? No matter what. You better hope you get that amnesty clause, you get that going, because you're going to pay that money. Football isn't like that. You could see somebody, you'd be like, man, he's rich. Oh, my gosh, he just signed a $100 million contract. And he only got like 20 of it. What do you mean he only got 20? He only got like 20 of it. So here's the thing. This is how it works. They might say, hey, JJ, we're going to give you this $15 million contract, all right? But we're going to backload the $15 million of like the vast majority of what we're going to give you this much up front. We'll give you $5 million, $6 million up front. But what we're going to do in terms of like all these big salaries big bonuses, we're going to say in year 3, year 4, you accelerate. So if you're still playing, you made this amount of plays, you're still on the roster, we'll give you a roster bonus. That'll be $2 million. We'll give you a Pro Bowl bonus. That'll be $1 million. We'll give you this. That'll be $1 million. They can hide it in a way where if he doesn't make it out of year 1, they could cut him as quickly as they brought him in, and it's gone. It ain't guaranteed money. So now you're talking about, is the contract negotiation about purely guaranteed, or are we talking about a contract where the number says this crazy, large, exorbitant amount of money that he's going to receive? That's the difference. Now, we start hearing guarantees, then that's a different conversation. But right now, if he gets a large contract and they're like, oh my gosh, J.J. Watt's still commanding that type of money, take a look at what the guarantees are. That's where the true contract lies.
LeBron James has been on the receiving end of a few shots by former teammates recently. First, Kyrie Irving said KD was the first teammate he trusted to take clutch shots. And now, Brandon Ingram gave some eyebrow-raising praise of Zion Williamson. He said, quote, I've never played with a player as talented as me, and he's a generational talent. Fox Sports NBA analyst Rick Bucher joins us now. Rick, when you're done laughing, are you surprised LeBron's former teammate is throwing shade at him?
I would not be the least bit surprised that a former LeBron teammate is throwing shade at him, if that indeed is what is happening here. Because let's face it, what LeBron James said to all those young guns that went to New Orleans in exchange for Anthony Davis is, you're not good enough to play with me to win a ring. And if I'm a player of any status, I would take offense to that. And if I'm a player that then goes to New Orleans and becomes an all-star, I'd take added umbrage when I heard that, or when I was basically told that. So, no, it does not surprise me that any of those guys. It actually surprises me that Lonzo Ball seems to buddy up to LeBron and doesn't have any hard feelings. I'd look at it and go, you thought I wasn't good enough. I can't wait to show you. I think that's what Brandon Ingram is is doing. And by saying that Zion, the reason I don't believe that it's throwing shade is because he's saying that Zion Williamson is on his level. He's not saying that they are on LeBron's level. Honestly, I think they look at it and say, LeBron's in a whole other category. I just have a guy that I know I can play with who doesn't suck all the oxygen out of the room and has allowed me to become an all-star, as opposed to the other guy who didn't think I could play, didn't think I could help him win. So to me, it's perfectly natural that Brandon Ingram would feel the way he does about Zion without necessary and LeBron without necessarily comparing the two. I think you're inflating this to say that Zion is better than LeBron James. I don't believe that that's what Brandon Ingram is saying.
Rick, I think the only way he's not throwing shade at LeBron is because we're going to take him literally and say he's saying, I've never played with a player as talented as me. I've played with one who's more talented than me, but not as talented. Like that. Yeah. That's the only way I see it. And I think I hear what you're saying in that he's trying to compliment Zion more than he's trying to rip LeBron. I could see that. But there's no doubt it's shade. And you're right. Look, when LeBron went to LA, it tells you how much Brandon Ingram hated that season that they had together. And I get it. It's tough. You went from being one of the faces of the most glamorous franchises in the NBA, or the most glamorous franchise in the NBA, along with Lonzo. It was you and Lonzo, the faces of that team, to being a trade chip. You know, you became one of LeBron's supporting cast. All right. And LeBron, as you said, made you feel like you weren't good enough to play with me. I get all that. But even with that, Rick, I'm not just surprised. I'm not just stunned. I'm not just flabbergasted. I'm gobsmacked that he would go ahead and say something like this. Because this is a statement that is asinine. It makes you look bad. This makes Kyrie's statement look like he was blowing kisses to LeBron. I mean, this is, from a basketball standpoint, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my 26 years of covering the league. From a basketball standpoint, you can't say when you've played with LeBron James that you've never played with somebody as talented as yourself. Yeah. And I get the anger, but Brandon, you're better than that. It makes you look bad.
Rick, the only thing you forgot to mention Anthony Davis. You got traded for Anthony Davis, and the Lakers instantly won a championship.
You and three other guys. I don't care who I got traded for. LeBron James said, I'm not good enough to help you get
He's not good enough. That's a fact. That's a factual statement. As a player, I would take that personally. I wouldn't feel good about that. I wouldn't. You know what? You're right. And Anthony Davis got you a championship, and my bad. No, I would take that personally and say, let me show you different. And look, I don't get the part where it's asinine to say that I've got somebody who's as talented as me. I think it would be asinine for Brandon Ingram to say
that's fine.
Zion is the most talented player I've ever played with, or Zion Williamson is the most talented. I've never played with a player as talented as me.
So, LeVar, it's your turn.
Y'all done yet? You're finished.
Yeah, I just want to say asinine, so we've all said the word now. It's out there. LeVar, go for it.
Y'all done yet, or y'all finished? Are we done yet, or are we finished?
It just depends, LeVar. Where are you going?
Let me tell y'all about Brandon Ingram. And let me tell y'all about what this could possibly be from my perspective. When you are an ultra competitive dude, and when you're an ultra competitor, all right, you're always going to believe in your own abilities. I thought I was better than Ray Lewis. If you told me that I played with a guy and he was as good as me and it was directed towards Ray Lewis, you would not be able to convince me otherwise that I was better than Ray Lewis. Because my mind told me that's what I was, talent-wise. It might not be reflective in my stats. It might not be reflective in my MVP goals, awards. It might not be reflective in a Super Bowl. But in my mind, I think I am the best to do it. And you know what? If you're going to ever have an opportunity or have a chance to try to be the best at what you do, and that's what pros strive to be, the best at what they do, could this just be looked at as a tad bit of just sarcasm, tongue-in-cheek? I think I am very good. I think I am the most talented and the most gifted. And this dude is as gifted and as talented as I am. I don't tend to go down the road of where most people are going to travel down, right? Because if he said that, knowing that this is the road that everybody's traveling down, then it's kind of like there's no hit to it. There's no weight to it. There's nothing there. Like, that's kind of, to me, it's like you're having a moment like, oh man, I ain't never played with a dude as talented as me since playing with this guy. It doesn't have to necessarily be shot in a way where you're taking a shot at the obvious. I know I was traded for Anthony Davis. I know I played with LeBron James, but I also know how good I am. And I'll be honest with you, if you really think about it, in some circles, I was better than Ray Lewis. In some circles, people may say that Brandon is better than LeBron James.
No, nobody says that.
It might sound crazy. Listen,
no, don't go there.
It might sound crazy. There's a kid that was standing there on the bleachers watching Brandon play when he was growing up. There's somebody somewhere. I don't know where they're at. I don't know where it exists. It could be where he grew up. There's somebody that saw the talent of Brandon and Brandon Ingram and really felt as though that Brandon Ingram is one of the most talented dudes. Now, I might sound crazy, and y'all might sit there at home saying, LeVar sounds crazy, like he doesn't know what he's talking about. But I do. Everybody has a legend. Every single player that has made it to the pros has a legend, and there's a story out there that exists where you could say he did something so legendary that it would rival anybody else. People said Lenny Bias was better than Michael Jordan. If there was never, if what happened to Len Bias had ever happened, there would have never been a Michael Jordan. That's probably more urban legend than it is truth. But you know what? To people in Suitland, Maryland, shouts out to Suitland. To people in PG County, shouts out to PG County. They believe that Len Bias was a better basketball player than Michael Jordan. Somewhere, somebody thinks Brandon Ingram was that type of talent,
Rick,
and he believes it.
LeBron averaged 27, 8, and 8 in the year he played with Brandon Ingram.
Okay. Well, look, what would be asinine is if Brandon Ingram is suggesting that he's on LeBron's level and that now Zion is finally a player that's on his level. I just don't believe Brandon Ingram, no matter what the people in PG County or Maryland
not
are
PJ,
saying, is crazy enough to believe that. I do believe that this is a matter of who do I like playing with more, that's generating it, and who have I personally had more success with, and who believes in me more.
And what's wrong with that?
It makes sense that he would like to. Look, Zion's a different personality. Zion's in a different place in his career. LeBron, Brandon Ingram wouldn't be the first player to say that LeBron sucks all the oxygen out of the room, and it may not be personal, even though in this case I think it is. And I'd rather play someplace else and become a star than become LeBron's caddy.
Everybody's not willing to kiss rings.
Like, Kyrie Irving was
y'all act like everybody's supposed to just kiss rings. Everybody don't have to sit around and kiss LeBron's ring. Everybody don't have to kiss rings.
Isn't it better to have a ring to kiss?
Everybody doesn't have to kiss rings. All right, LeBron James is good. We know he's one of the greatest ever. We know that. But he doesn't have to, Brandon Ingram doesn't have to kiss his ring.
You guys sound like Kyrie Irving when he was trying to come back and say, I wasn't talking about LeBron. If I'm talking about him, I'm going to mention his name. I mean, I get where you're going, Rick. We all know that there are players that have played with LeBron and not enjoyed it. We get that. All right. But Brandon Ingram did not. He worded his statement in a way.
It was weirdly worded.
You played with LeBron James. You know that. And you chose to say, I've never played with a guy as talented as myself. I'm looking at every one of your
can't read any
teammates.
sarcasm in that.
And I'm
Like,
saying
honestly.
that you said none of them.
Y'all can't read any sarcasm in that.
Brandon Ingram, I don't know Brandon Ingram being sarcastic. That's where.
I will give Brand. If Brandon's not saying that, then dismiss everything I said. Then fine. You know, that's good. If he just wants to say, I love playing with Zion, it's a lot of fun playing with him. He's a guy that's equal in talent to me. We're going to be a great tandem together. You know, that's fine. But why even go to I've never played with a guy as talented as me?
Because it's a
and
literary
I don't care how
technique.
good Brandon Ingram.
It's a literary
how
technique.
How good Brandon Ingram becomes.
He
is never going to be as good as LeBron James.
He knew y'all were going to do that.
He could become a Hall of Famer.
He knew
He'll
everybody was going to do this.
Rick, let me just one more thing, Rick. So we know that Michael Jordan's teammates, some of them did not like playing with him. Kobe Bryant's teammates, some didn't like playing with him. How is this any different? LeBron's former teammates, some of them, Kyrie Irving, Brandon Ingram, didn't love the experience. Doesn't it speak to LeBron's greatness on some level that he was difficult to play with?
Yeah. No question. If you play with LeBron, it's going to be the LeBron show. And it's going to be done LeBron's way. And that's not all that different from playing with Kobe or Michael. I'm not suggesting that this is somehow a legitimate shot at LeBron. But I also am not dismissing that Brandon Ingram has reason to say, you didn't think I was good enough. I thought I was good enough. I thought I could play with you. I thought I could win a championship with you. And you said I couldn't. So you know what? Let me go out here and prove different. And I become an all-star, and now I'm playing with a guy who may not be the same talent as LeBron, but appreciates my talent.
Well, he's the same talent as
doesn't suck all the oxygen out of the room. And I'm going to go build something. Like, keep in mind, we're all of us here. We're a little older in age. We've learned to, pacify things. We've learned to, accept certain things. If I'm a young gun at Brandon Ingram's age and somebody told me, yeah, you're not good enough, I would like that. Well, that still gets my hackles up at this point. But at that point, yeah, I might say something. And I wouldn't care who it was, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. Probably says more about me than anything else. But I would take umbrage with that.
He was going for effect,
I'm not
guys.
good enough to play with you. Let me show you. I'm going to go play with this other guy.
Y'all reading too deep.
Let me ask Chris something.
About the other guy, maybe I did.
Y'all reading too deep into
Rick
it.
keeps saying you're not good enough to play with me. I don't think LeBron said that, Chris. Isn't he just saying the best chance to win a championship is to bring in Anthony Davis? And that's accurate. That's not saying Brandon
you're not
Ingram's
good
crap
enough.
or garbage.
That's saying you're not good enough. That is saying you're not good enough.
Brandon, Lonzo, all those guys, they've got reason to be upset with LeBron. There's no doubt about it. I mean, yes, LeBron was like, I can't win with y'all. That's essentially what he was saying. He was lobbying for Anthony Davis during that season. So I get where they're angry at him, and I've got no problem with that. And I actually like you guys said, I like you taking the mentality of, I'm going to prove to you that I'm a great player, LeBron. Right. But just go ahead and do it. Don't make a statement like this because this just makes you look bad.
He's just going for effect.
You don't need to be taking on LeBron James in the public opinion. Come on.
You know what? This is where I agree with LeVar. Is he literally saying that Zion is better than LeBron?
No,
or
he's not.
No. But what he wants to say is,
I think he was saying he's better than LeBron.
He was going for effect. He was driving home the effect.
It came off. I don't even look at it as him comparing Zion and LeBron. I look at it as him comparing himself to LeBron.
Shame on y'all for attacking Brandon Ingram over this.
Maybe he was saying, maybe it's like I got another star beside me, maybe a superstar who doesn't dominate the basketball, right?
Yes.
Who plays off the ball, who moves without the ball. It's a lot easier to play with him. That's fine. Just say that. But don't rip.
It was not literal. It was not literal. It was for effect. Come on, guys.
It's rare when Broussard and I agree this much. But
we took a hard right turn. I had to leave you, but I'm back in the car with you.
Thank you.
No mercy. Danny Ainge knows his Celtics need some help after watching his team lose 14 of their last 21 games. Whether he will find it ahead of the March 25th NBA trade deadline remains to be seen. But he has made it clear that he won't throw his stars under the bus. However, in a radio appearance, Ainge said I do believe in my players. I like them all individually. I think they have good futures. I just think right now our team is in a major funk. Chris, how concerned are you about the Celtics?
Well, there's different levels. Number one, they're the 9th seeded team today in the Eastern Conference. So obviously they wouldn't even be in the playoffs. I mean, they'd be in the play-in tournament, but not the top 8. I don't think there's any way that continues. If they didn't make the playoffs, I would just be floored. So I do think they'll make the playoffs. They'll right themselves to some degree. All right, they won't keep playing on a pace where they win 7 and lose 14, which is what they've done over the last 21 games. However, here's the problem in Boston. They've been to the Eastern Conference Finals 3 of the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. They have 2 max salary players in Kemba Walker and Jason Tatum, and another guy in Jaylen Brown who's getting paid handsomely. So they are a team that is built to win right now and expected to win right now. And there is no way that they're coming out of the East. And that was the people were thinking they had a shot to do that. I don't see them getting to the conference finals. Brooklyn is obviously better. Philadelphia is certainly better, I think, at least right now. And the reason they used to beat Philadelphia in large part was because Brad Stevens would out-coach Brett Brown. I don't think that's going to happen now with Doc Rivers. So I put Philly ahead of them. Even if Boston rights itself and gets itself together, they are still at best the third best team in the East in my estimation. And I'm not even talking about Milwaukee, a Toronto team that's suddenly playing well, and Indiana. So Boston is, I'd be concerned if the goal was to get to the NBA Finals, which it was. So, yeah, there's a major concern there because that is not going to happen this season.
The concern is in the immediate future, yes, they're not going to play for a championship. Not only this year, next year, they're locked up, as Chris mentioned, when it comes to their cap situation. It's going to be difficult to change this team. It's why they were seeing what the market was for Kemba Walker last summer to see if they could move him, because they realized we're not good enough to get to where we want to go. But concern, that's a little tricky for me to say that the sky is falling on the Boston Celtics. Look, they've not only been to the Eastern Conference 3 times in the last 4 years, they've been to the playoffs 6 years in a row, and there's still a very good chance that they will go again this year. The door is simply closed when it comes to them winning a championship in the next year or two because of what Brooklyn has put together and what Philadelphia has put together. That said, Boston still has 2 young talents. They have assets. They have the ability the ability to change pieces and still make this a viable team in the near future. It's not like they're locked up going long term. So did they potentially miss their window right now? They may have. And they may have, even if they weren't playing as badly as they were, that they still wouldn't be good enough to beat this new iteration of the Brooklyn Nets. So am I concerned for their chances right now? Yes. But in the big picture, it's not as if this is a death knell for the Boston Celtics organization for the next 3, 4, 5 years. They have the ability to get out of this.
I couldn't disagree more, guys. I'm stunned at this. We're talking about a Boston team without Marcus Smart, the heartbeat of that locker room, the heart and soul of that team. He's been out for like 3 weeks. He's going to be out a couple more. Boston is a team that I've already bought low. I bought futures to win the East. I believe, Rick and Chris, nobody matches up better in the East with the Brooklyn Nets than the Boston Celtics. When you can put Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum on the perimeter against KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, that's your best chance anybody in the East can take down the Brooklyn Nets. This is a Boston team that needs to turn the spotlight on Danny Ainge. And, you know, I don't want to go too hard here, but this is a guy who lost Al Horford for nothing, who lost Kyrie Irving for nothing, who lost Gordon Hayward for nothing. I know they got the trade exception. We'll see what happens. But Danny Ainge is the one who has kind of bricked in the last few off seasons and has prevented this team from making the leap. Kemba Walker's taken a lot of heat. I get it. The knee is an issue, but LeVar, I'm all in on Boston. I think as soon as they get healthy, this team is right there, maybe as the second best team in the East.
They've had game slides You know, they're struggling. There's so much more basketball to be played. And you know what? They got one player. His knee is bumming. He'll get it healthy. Once he's healthy, and Kemba Walker, they'll be so much better. Once they get Marcus Smart back, they'll be so much better. What are we panicking for? I mean, come on, guys. There's so much more basketball left to be played as we go down the stretch of the second half of the season.
I see what he's doing,
All right,
Chris.
hold on a second.
You see what he's doing?
Hold on a second.
I know where it is.
LeVar,
I mean, windows closing, opportunities gone. No, you've had your chance to talk, Rick Bucher. I'm going to talk right now because you know what? It sounds as though what's good for the goose doesn't happen to be good for the gander in this conversation.
I don't even know what that means.
Because
I don't
either.
right.
But it's always been used when it's
LeVar.
talking about something good for something that should be good for
Broussard,
something.
he's on to something here.
All right, Broussard, go ahead. I mean, if you guys,
No,
look, if
LeVar.
Qualifier
Okay.
and you know, Deflector, you guys want to team up and form Voltron right now, be my guest. But I'm just saying, why are we panicking?
I'm going to bring the truth, LeVar.
Okay.
The Los Angeles Lakers have LeBron James. That's what you're talking about. Because
Okay.
Rick and I said there's no reason to panic with the Lakers.
Okay.
Let's count the differences between the Lakers and the Boston Celtics. Number
Let's do
one, the Lakers won the championship last year. Number two,
Different team.
the Lakers have LeBron James.
Old
Number
man.
three, Anthony Davis is much
He's
better
hurt.
than Kemba Walker.
He's hurt.
And so don't dare compare Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart to Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder, who's on their level, but
Schroeder?
he's teamed with Anthony Davis.
Did you just do that?
So just stop it. That's
Did you just do that?
That's ridiculous. And then I'm not going to let J-Mac off the hook. J-Mac, you're starting to sound like Brandon Ingram. All right? Did you really just sit here on national television and say that the Boston Celtics are going to win the East?
No, I said I will
That's
bet
your
them
pick?
to win the East because they're like plus 2,300. There's value. You're telling me
I'm not Fox Bet. I'm not into the gambling.
Chris, who
Who's
matches up
winning
better
the
with
East?
Brooklyn? Who matches up better with Brooklyn in the East than Boston?
The Philadelphia
Philadelphia.
76ers.
Oh, stop it!
Philadelphia.
Their backcourt is a
J-Mac.
joke.
Do you
Come
realize?
on.
Let me address you guys.
Are you
Hold
kidding
on.
me?
Because y'all coming at the football
Hey,
player
Lamar,
like he
no,
can't
no.
talk no basketball
You
here.
had
Let me
your turn to talk.
put y'all up on game real quick. Broussard, you cannot sit there and say they won the championship last year. That's why, and they have LeBron.
Did.
Hey, no, it's a different team. It is a vastly different team than what it was last year.
The heart
That's
and
first and
soul of
foremost.
it's the same.
It is not the same team that won the championship last year. That's first and foremost. Secondly, I do not know what Anthony Davis is, what his health is going to be moving forward.
You
That
don't know
is
what
a
Marcus Smart
tricky
is gonna be
injury.
moving forward either. Or
That is a
Kemba Walker.
very tricky injury. So right now you're talking about and Schroeder, like I get what you guys are saying, but I still think you guys are overselling him and what he brings to the table. I take Rondo over that. Anyway, the bottom line of what I'm saying is that when we're drawing these comparisons, it's interesting because when I look at the 76ers, what do the 76ers tend to do, J-Mac, when they make it to the playoffs and the end of the season?
I like Ben Simmons. I'm Team Ben
I mean,
Simmons.
there's memes. There's so many funny memes of
New
Embiid
coach, LeVar.
choking in the playoffs and not getting
What
it
do the-
done. I don't
what do the
trust
Boston
it.
Celtics do?
I don't.
Doc
I
Rivers.
don't trust it.
Doc Rivers never choked.
I don't trust it. And
I'ma
then when
let
you're
Rick-
talking
I'ma
about
let Rick clean y'all
and
up.
then we're talking about Brooklyn. Yes, I like where Brooklyn is right now. Yes, I like the way that they look. Yes, they look like the team that could come out of the East. Yes, it looks like James Harden is playing at an MVP level. I like Brooklyn. Do I think that it still can be competitive if Kemba Walker gets healthy and Marcus Smart gets healthy? Yes. Why is that such a bad foregone conclusion to think that they can still be competitive against Brooklyn? I have to see it from the 76ers. I have to see it from them. They haven't proven, which it was a Penn Stater that won the game for them the other night on that game-winning dunk. By the way, I'm a fan. But anyway, back to my point. I'm not a believer in the 76ers right now. I got to see it take place between Brooklyn
That's your
and
point.
the Celtics right now.
But you're using
that's the
another
truth.
literary device. It's called hyperbole.
Hyperbole is good
Boston-
too.
Look,
Back to back.
I like that.
the Boston Celtics may be good, and they may be good at small ball. They're not better than the Brooklyn Nets at small ball, no matter who is healthy and on the floor for them. The only way you're going to knock off the Brooklyn Nets is to play a different way, which is what the Philadelphia 76ers do. They play big ball. That's an opportunity to beat the Brooklyn Nets, not at their own game, but make them play a different game. And so that's why the Boston Celtics, no matter what their configuration is in the current season, they're not going to beat the Brooklyn Nets. So let's put that to the side. And the fact of the matter is Danny Ainge has built a team that's gone to the playoffs 6 years in a row, to the Eastern Conference Finals 3 years in a row. And J-Mac, you want to look at him and say, Danny Ainge, you really screwed this up big time. Has he made a couple of mistakes in terms of getting that last piece? Maybe. But the infrastructure that he's built, you can't argue with. And if you are, then I got 25, 26 other GMs that you should be looking at and saying they need to go because they're a problem too.
Give us some time.
Broussard, final thoughts.
Well, and Rick, too, apparently Marcus Smart is Larry Bird now. I mean, that's all. Once they get back Marcus Smart,
Schroeder!
sky's the limit.
Apparently Schroeder is James Worthy.
I like Smart. I like Smart.
No mercy.
Royal Rumble winner Edge has made his choice and is now officially on the road to WrestleMania with the Universal Champion Roman Reigns. It's an all-new Friday Night SmackDown, live at 8 Eastern on Fox.
Fox Bet Superbook still has the Lakers as the title favorites, but the Brooklyn Nets are the hottest right now after winning 8 straight, including big wins over the Lakers and Clippers. Brooklyn is getting it done at both ends of the court, and no NBA team has ever had 3 players average more than 25 points a game in a season. The Nets could become the first to do that. KD and Kyrie are both over 25, and James Harden is at 24.9 points per game. Rick Bucher, would anything less than a championship be a disappointment for this Nets team?
No, it wouldn't be a disappointment if they don't end up winning the championship. I do believe it would be a disappointment and would create some issues for them if they don't get to the finals at this point. But look, we saw when the Miami Heat came together with their big 3, it took them a year, but ultimately they did get to the finals, and then they got it done the next year. When I look at the age of the Brooklyn Nets stars, it's not as if this is boom or bust. They've got to get it done now. They're gonna have the same cap issues next year that they have right now. I mean, they essentially are what they are. But that said, the issue, if they don't get to the finals, it means that Philadelphia or Boston, I guess, according to J Mac, there's going to be another team that is going to get to the finals, and it's going to be a young team that is now going to have that experience and belief that they are the best team in the Eastern Conference, and that's going to create a greater stumbling block for that Brooklyn team. But as I look at them right now, I mean, we came in, we were thinking, is this experiment going to work? How well is it going to work? What's going to happen? And because they've had a little bit of success, now we're suggesting that it's title or it's a disaster. I can't go there, especially with a first-year coach. But, J-Mac, I got to push back on one thing you said at the very beginning. You said they're getting it done at both ends of the court. Nobody is getting it done at the defensive end of the court in the NBA right now, okay? Defense is not being played. It's why Brooklyn is good as it is, and the question remains, is defense once again in the postseason going to be as important as it has been in the past? And if that is the case, then that's one more reason to question whether Brooklyn is good enough to get it done.
It would be a disappointment if they don't win it all. Now, it wouldn't be a failure. I think it'd be a failure if they don't get out of the East, because they're clearly the most talented team in the East. They've got Kyrie and KD who have won championships. James Harden did not go to Brooklyn, force his way out of Houston to get to the second or third round. He wants to get to the finals for the first time since he was in OKC. So it would be a failure if they didn't win the East. But I think they legitimately should be disappointed if they don't win it all. But I wouldn't call it a failure if they lose to the Clippers or the Lakers in the NBA Finals, because Rick is right. It's tough to come together in one season. We saw the big three in Boston do it with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. But remember, they actually went 7 games in their first 2 playoff rounds. Like, they could have lost early that year in the playoffs. And then, as he mentioned, the Miami Heat, it took them a year to get it done. Last year, you saw the Clippers couldn't come together in 1 year. So it generally does take more than one season together to win a ring. So that's why I wouldn't say a failure. But disappointment, yeah. Because this team potentially, and they'll obviously never be the defensive club that Golden State was. But as Rick said, this is an offensive league now. And hardly anybody plays great defense anymore. I mean, the rules forbid it to some degree. You can't hand check. The floor is so spaced, so you got more land, more real estate to cover. It is an offensive league. What you need to be capable of doing is getting stops when you need to and playing solid defense. And Brooklyn is growing in that regard. Their defense has gotten better. It's not great, and it won't be great. But it has gotten better to the point where it's adequate, which I think is all they need with their offense. But looking at the way they're playing without Kevin Durant, looking at what are they, 12-3 against teams with winning records, that's by far the best. They swept through the West. They've beaten every single elite team in the NBA, most of them without Kevin Durant, or certainly without their big three together, considering Durant is a superstar that you can drop into the lineup. And yeah, there's a few adjustments, but for the most part, he's going to be fine, and he's going to get his 30 points on 16 shots or a few more. Like, they should be disappointed legitimately if they don't win it all. But it won't be a failure.
I'm with Chris. It's a failure if they don't get out of the East, right? We would agree. Listen, that Warriors team that they've been compared to. Wait, LeVar, why are you dropping your head?
Go on, finish your point.
Wait,
I'm just waiting for you. I was hoping that you were going to
The Golden State Warriors, who somebody just asked LeBron, hey, is this team as good as the Warriors, that Nets team? Are they as good as KD, Clay, and Curry?
Hell no.
They lost one playoff game, and it was when the Cavs hit 75 threes. They can't sniff that team, okay? And that team rolled. They lost one playoff game the first year. Okay, this Nets team's very good. If they do not get to the finals, LeVar, there's no word other than failure if they fall short.
I agree with you. You kind of went 2 different places, though. I mean, I agree with the last part. The first part is what made my head get heavy on my neck. What's interesting for me in all of this is I'm going to qualify and I'm going to deflect. So I'm going to take a little bit from both of you guys, Buke and Brew. I look at this Brooklyn Nets team, and it is certainly championship or bust for this team. For one, the caveat, and this is where I'll qualify, the caveat here is if Kevin Durant can get healthy and remain healthy long enough for them to make this run. That's the caveat. If they do not have Kevin Durant available, then here's where I deflect and I say, okay, you're looking at a team that they're not going to be able to get it done without having all 3 of them playing in a harmonious way and fashion. So that's the first part of it. Another reason why I look at it being win or bust is because I'm looking at the West, and I'm going to continue to do my little, the little rowing machine, the old school rowing machine. I'm going to keep pushing it down the tracks on the LA Lakers. I think they're vulnerable. I think they're very vulnerable. You guys continue to talk as though there's no reason to have concern about this team because of the 2 guys that are going to come back and be a part of the team and make them better, and they're going to be world beaters again. And oh my gosh, here we go, hoist another trophy. I think there's concerns. I think they're vulnerable. Then I look at this LA Clippers team, and I don't know that the Clippers believe that they truly can win it. I just feel as though there is something there that doesn't allow me to have a comfortable moment where I say this LA Clippers team really has the ability to go out there and have that killer instinct to win it all. So who does that leave left? The team that I like the most out of the West, which you guys will sit there and curl your faces up and say they lost to the Clippers and all that other stuff. Okay, I get it, but I really like the configuration and the talent and the continuity of the Utah Jazz. I like the Jazz in the West. So when I look at what you're going to have to go up against as the Brooklyn Nets coming out of the East, which I don't see the 76ers unchoking themselves this year in these playoffs. Maybe it's a game between them and the Boston Celtics because they pull it together and start tightening up. But I do see this being an amazing opportunity for a first-year team assembled, first-year coach, first-year players. I see this being a situation where the Brooklyn Nets have a clear view and a clear shot and path to get to that final. And if they get to the final and it plays out the way I'm seeing it play out in my mind, they may see the Utah Jazz in the final. I think it's a great final, but it should be a Brooklyn Nets series to lose or to win, which means to me it renders this a win or bust season for the Brooklyn Nets.
I am stunned at the sneakiness of you guys. Let me start with J-Mac, because J-Mac somehow took, is it going to be a disappointment, and turned it into, is it going to be a failure? Which one are we talking about? Disappointment or failure?
Well, the question says bust. All you got to do is read your screen, Rick Bucher. I said, is it officially championship or bust?
Disappointment. J-Mac is saying failure now.
They got to make the finals, Rick. You know this.
If it's a disappointment, then how many teams would be disappointed this year if they didn't win the championship? It can't just be the Brooklyn Nets, right?
Correct. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah, but Brooke, how many teams, Rick? I hear what you're saying. But how many teams really can look in the mirror?
No, I'm just asking a question.
We
how
can
many
win
teams would it be a disappointment?
I mean, there's probably what, 4?
Every team that doesn't win.
4, maybe
4 or 5 teams
that
can win the title.
Say that?
That's it.
Okay, fair. Now,
no,
it's every team that doesn't win it. The proper answer and response would be every single team that doesn't win it.
I know, but that's like saying Brandon Ingram thinks he's better than LeBron James. Just somebody in Maryland says he's better.
Well done. Well done.
Mama Ingram.
There's certain things that we can just jump ahead and we don't have to, clarify.
Okay.
Here's the other thing. You guys keep talking about how dominant the Brooklyn Nets are during the regular season. I knew they were going to be a team difficult to beat in the regular season. When you have 3 stars like that and you're playing night to night to night, you can't game plan effectively to slow them down, take advantage of their weaknesses, to make the ball go certain places. In the postseason, the best of the best are capable of doing that. And that's going to change the dynamic. So to look at the Brooklyn Nets as seemingly unbeatable in the regular season does not mean that they're going to have the same dominance in the postseason when teams that have the personnel to match up and can game plan can change the dynamic. And that is what's going to challenge the synchronicity and the discipline and the togetherness of this Brooklyn Nets that hasn't had time to gel over more than this season. And that's where they become vulnerable. So don't take what they're doing right now and think this is going to be this way when we get to May and June.
No mercy. Russell Wilson has voiced his frustrations with the Seahawks several times this offseason and has been the subject of trade rumors since. According to Adam Schefter, the Cowboys are one of 4 teams Russ would be willing to be dealt to in a potential trade. Wilson's agent says he hasn't demanded a trade yet, but he has a no-trade clause, so he can dictate where he'd potentially be traded. And although Dak Prescott is coming off a serious ankle injury, his lone playoff win came against Wilson and the Seahawks. Fox Sports NFL analyst Greg Jennings is joining us now. Greg, should Dallas pursue Russ instead of settling on Dak?
No. No. They should not pursue Russell Wilson. I know it's intriguing. I know it's very enticing. He's an MVP caliber player. However, you would have to give up too much if you're the Dallas Cowboys, and they are far further away than been closer to being a playoff team. So I just don't think that it evens itself out, even as great a player as Russell Wilson is and what he would provide. To be quite honest and straightforward, it's almost a wash when you look at the talent and you look at the ability. I'm not at all saying that Dak Prescott is Russell Wilson. He is not. But what he's been able to do for that franchise and that offense has been very elite. And now I know we don't like to just single out statistics and players and individuals, but that's what you got to do when you're looking at these two guys. Russell Wilson hasn't elevated the Seattle Seahawks to Super Bowl status. It was the guys around him. Dak Prescott has never elevated that Dallas team to Super Bowl status or even consistently playoff status. It's been the support of the guys around him. However, both guys have the ability to really carry the shoulder. They're great leaders. They're great off the field. They have great presence about them. Now, the career of Russell Wilson speaks volumes in and of itself. But at 32 years old, are you willing to pay him that amount of money and give up all of that capital to acquire a guy like that when you can have a younger guy who's pretty much on the path of Russell Wilson? And so I just don't think it's the best situation for the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, it's enticing, it's intriguing, but no, I would not do that if I'm the Dallas Cowboys.
First of all, LeVar, thank you for allowing me to go right after Greg.
Sure.
Secondly, Greg Jennings, we've done TV together now for 3 years. I've heard you say some shaky things, but this takes the cake, my man. What? First of all, Dak Prescott is not as good as Russell Wilson. Yeah, there's some similarities. They both have intangibles. They're both black. They both run with the football well. All that. They manage the game well. But Russell Wilson has proven over the last 6 years that he can do what Dak can't. Now, I'll give you, if you want to say the Super Bowl, getting there, winning it, and then getting there the second year, Russ was more of a game manager, a la Dak Prescott. I'll give you that. But the last 6 years, Russ has carried that team. The Legion of Boom is gone poof. They're out of there. Marshawn Lynch is gone. He's doing commercials for Subway. And still, Russell Wilson carries that team year in, year out to double-figure wins and a spot in the playoffs. All right, Dak Prescott, when Dak had his most success winning, he was a game manager, and Zeke was the bell cow. The last few years when they kind of flipped it, Zeke's not quite the same. So now we're gonna be Dak-centric. They've been losing games. They were 8-8 last year. We know what happened this year. Even though he got hurt before he got hurt, they weren't winning. When he averaged those 371 yards a game, Greg, a lot of that, you know this, came when the Dallas Cowboys were down big. The opponent went to a prevent defense, and Dallas had no choice but to throw the football. They scored 30 points in the second half against Atlanta. In that great comeback, but they were in a prevent. And then they scored 24 points in the fourth quarter against Cleveland. Cleveland, he wasn't just lighting it up in the first half and the second half. So I'm just saying, Greg, so yes. And here's the kicker. I don't want to hog up the show. Here's the kicker. Russell Wilson would be cheaper.
Yes.
The cap hit for the next 3 years for Russell, $19 million, $19 million, $22 million. And I got to pay a guy that's not as good as him $38 to $40 million a year. Go get Russ. Go get Russ.
Yeah, Greg, real quick, before LeVar Arrington goes, I see the steam coming out of his ears across from me here on the set. Greg, I just want to point out, and this is not Dak slander, but after his rookie year, right? He had a good rookie year, took the league by storm. Everybody was surprised. Dak Prescott against teams that ended with a winning record was 6-20. 33 touchdowns, 28 picks. He has not delivered. I know you like him a lot, but please do not put him anywhere near. He's not even in the galaxy. He can't see the galaxy that Russell Wilson is in. LeVar, take it away.
Well, if I'm Jerry Jones, I'm just getting on my cell phone and I'm hitting up Russ's agent and I'm like, won't you be mine? Won't you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please, won't you be? That's what you made me think about, G&J, because I love the cardigan and the nice
Mr.
Rogers dip you got going on there. I would certainly want Russell Wilson to be my neighbor in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, or wherever it is they reside. I could care less because I'm not a Dallas fan. But this is a great opportunity for the Dallas Cowboys to say, you know what? We continue to say every single year that we are Super Bowl ready. This is Super Bowl or bust season. You cannot say that with a straight face and mean it currently the way that it is. And I'll go even further to say, if I'm Jerry Jones, I'm sitting there and I'm like, the football gods, lowercase g, have answered my prayers. You mean a quarterback better than the one that I had has put it out there in the public forum for consumption that he would love to come to my team. And oh, by the way, what Chris Broussard said rings so true. He's cheaper. He's much cheaper. I don't have to play the franchise tag. Just get Russ. Hey, you know what? If they're willing to take Dak Prescott for the money he's trying to get and let them figure that out, then take Ezekiel Elliott too. Take Zeke. Let's make it work. Send them to Seattle. Bring me Russell Wilson. Let me put him. Hey, Pollard, I'm okay with that. We can get through with that right now. We got CD on the outside. We got Amari on the outside. We got Gallup on the outside. Now all I got to do is try to address to make sure that my defense is what it needs to be. And now I'm selling tickets. I'm selling hope. And I'm selling reasoning. I actually can make sense as Jerry Jones saying that we're Super Bowl bound by adding Russell Wilson. This is a great idea, although I don't think it works. It ain't gonna happen, but man, it makes sense.
It does, and the reason why it doesn't work is because it's not that easy, guys.
That is true.
If it were that easy, they would have already made the deal. But what Seattle is going to require is going to make Dallas pause for the cause. Like, simply put, Russ is cheaper if you're just saying, oh, yeah, let's just trade up, head up, Russ for Dak. It ain't happening. No, we need more than that.
Ezekiel Elliott, that balances it out.
What Seattle is looking at is so much more. They're looking like, okay, if we're going to ever consider this, you're going to have to pretty much give up your entire house.
No, you just said they're the same player, Greg. You just said that they're the same player.
They're not the same player, but for Seattle's sake, that's what they want out of Dak. That's what they want out of Russ, is a guy that can just manage the game and just be that guy.
So what you're saying is that Dak Prescott deserves the money that he should get from Dallas, but he's not worth the trade for Russ. So his value is here with Dallas, but it's nowhere near there with Seattle? That's what you're basically insinuating right now.
If that's the case, that's the case. Look, I'm appreciated more in this house than I am outside.
Well, that's fair.
I believe that.
I mean maybe.
That's
you never know.
So, Greg, you would be willing to pay Dak $38 million to be a game manager? Why wouldn't you just go out and get Jameis Winston to hand the ball off?
He's not a game manager, though. We want to put him in that situation because that's what he was when he first started. It's the same as Russell
He's not a big
Wilson,
game winner either.
He hasn't had the opportunity. That's the thing. That's the issue. Like, his teams has not been as good as the teams that Russell Wilson has had behind him. No, they have not. Guys, come on now. Look at Dallas. Yes, Dallas has had a great running game. Oh, my gosh, all they had to do was just turn around and hand the ball off to Ezekiel Elliott. But outside of that, moving on to last year, the year before, where was that running game? Where was that offensive line? Where was that defense? Non-existent. Where's the defense ever been? It's been non-existent. This is why this team has struggled to even make the playoffs. It's not just solely on Dak. Like, let's not make it seem like Russell Wilson has reached the goal that they have set in Seattle. The goal isn't playoffs. The goal is the Super Bowl, period.
I could say Seattle's defense was giving up a ton of points this year, too. And Russ was cooking, and they were still winning. I get it. Obviously, you want to get to a Super Bowl, and Russ cannot by himself carry a team to a Super Bowl. But who can? Peyton Manning couldn't. Aaron Rodgers can't. Nobody can. But what Russ can do, largely by himself, you know, relatively speaking, is get a team to the playoffs. Dak can't even do that. Dak had a chance last year against Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. What happened? He didn't get it done. So
you're saying Russell Wilson,
like that.
Russell Wilson, we're gonna act like Russell Wilson didn't start to fall off when he was cooking and burning food.
We can assume with that
Pete
personnel
Carroll
in Dallas.
Cooking.
We can assume with that personnel in Dallas he can get it done.
No mercy.
Deshaun Watson and the Texans seem to be headed toward an inevitable divorce this offseason. It was reported yesterday that Watson met with new coach David Culley last week, but made it clear he still wants to be traded. Despite this, the Texans are avoiding trade conversations involving Deshaun, which could have led to this not-so-cryptic tweet from Watson, who wrote, "Loyalty is everything. Don't you ever forget it." LeVar Arrington, who knows about loyalty?
I do.
Do you think Watson is still on Houston's roster by week 1 of next season?
I do. I do believe he's on the roster by week 1. And again, when you look at the situation that's playing out in Houston right now, if I'm the Houston Texans, there's nothing that I can do to replace what Deshaun Watson represents to my team, to my community. It's a horrible loss if you lose J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson in the same offseason. It's more acceptable because you're looking at the given scenarios of where J.J. Watt is in his career, but it's not for Deshaun Watson. So if I'm the Houston Texans, I'm trying to figure out, and in as many ways as I possibly can, how do we mend fences with Deshaun Watson? But if we're not able to mend fences, if we do not have a common ground that we meet on, then you have to understand, Deshaun, you are still under contract and you are a professional, which means you don't have to necessarily be 100% happy. And all this personal innuendos and cryptic messages and all that stuff, loyalty, this, that, that's fine. But if you want to keep it business, we can keep it business. If you want to make it personal, we can make it personal. But in the end, if I'm paying you a paycheck, there's still business to be done. And I believe, if I'm looking at it as the Houston Texans, a disgruntled, upset Deshaun Watson is still better than probably 100% of the fully motivated, happy, ready to go. I have an opportunity starting quarterbacks that Houston would bring in to fill that role. So I'm not letting you go, Deshaun. So fix it with the coach. You don't have to fix it with us. But I do know that Deshaun Watson probably has more than enough pride and self-respect that he's not going to go out there and represent himself in the wrong way out there on the field. And I'm going to bank on that if I'm Houston. He's going to be a Houston Texan.
I agree with you all the way up until the end. Everything you said, I agree with. Okay. I just don't, with what Deshaun Watson is saying and putting out there, he capitalized every letter in ever. Like, he wants them to don't ever, you've crossed the line. In his opinion, and from his perspective, this is, we can say it's personal, we can say it's whatever, but it means more to Deshaun Watson right now than I think we're giving credit to. And for him to sit down with that new staff that's put in place and to say, I still want out, like, he is going to buck, and it is going to get ugly, I believe, in Houston. And they truly have a problem. So we can say what could be in the business side and he's under contract. That's all great. It doesn't mean that he has to play. Yeah, should he? Could he? All those what ifs and all that. Deshaun Watson is not trying to play another down for the Houston Texans, and he's letting it be known to them. He's letting it be known to the world. However he can finagle his way out of there, he's trying to get it done. So you can lose J.J. Watt. That's fine. That's not Deshaun Watson's problem. That's your issue. as the organization and as management. But you're about to lose one of the youngest, best quarterbacks in the National Football League because he does not want to suit up for your organization anymore.
Yeah, LeVar, I hear you. And the pride in me loves what you said. And if I was the Houston Texans, you bet I'd be thinking just like you. How dare he? We gave this man a $156 million contract. You know, we can rebuild this thing. Like, I'll make him retire. Oh, does he want to sit out at 25 years old? He wants to give up his career? Then let's see if he's willing to do that. I'd be feeling that way. But at the end of the day, I also am running a business. And let's just say that if we're going to play a game of chicken, because that's what this is going to come down to. Let's just say I'm the Houston Texans and I call Deshaun's bluff. And he gets fined $3 million for missing preseason and training camp. And he sits out the year. And I make him give me back $21 million of his $27 million signing bonus. And he decides to retire. And I'm like, guess what? If you come back, you're coming back to the Texans because we still have your rights. Let's say all that happens. Am I helping my football team, though?
No.
I've gotten the best of Deshaun because I forced him to retire, and this is a guy
Are you helping your team if you let him go?
But I haven't helped my football team. So I think at the end of the day, he's going to get traded, and they got to – now, I will say this, hold out for a king's ransom.
Yeah.
Get first-round draft picks. I talked to the Jets, give me that number 2, because maybe I'll pick my new quarterback.
Yeah. LeVar,
but
let me ask you this.
I think at the end of the day, LeVar, I love you. I love your spirit. I love your gumption. But at the end of the day, I got to make a business
Broussard's
decision.
in his bag today. LeVar, so I've been at Fox probably 4.5 years now, and before the pandemic hit, there's GMs roaming the halls here, coaches, former players, every day, and I'm a sponge around them, and the number one thing they said they did not like was distractions. What is Deshaun Watson sitting out the entire season? A colossal distraction. Every day at practice, media cameras. Where's Deshaun? What's the latest? I don't think this is healthy for an organization and a coach, a new coach, by the way, who's never been a head coach before, and a new GM, and an owner, and the players. Every day they're going to be grilled about Deshaun Watson. You've got to cut bait and say, let's do the best we can, just like the Houston Rockets did with James Harden.
Makes
Get
sense,
what you can.
but that's not NFL sensible. NFL sensible is you signed the contract, and we have the contract, and you're going to have confusion either way. If you let him go, you're going to have confusion. If you try to hold on to him, you're going to have confusion. I'm going to have to deal with the repercussions and the fallout of what it takes to do whatever it is going to do, deal him or keep him. So I'm not getting rid of the best thing we have going for our team and for our city. I'm going to take my chances on an upset Deshaun Watson getting over being upset and still being professional enough to do his job.
No mercy. The J.J. Watt sweepstakes is starting to heat up after reports emerge that Watt's top priorities in a new team are QB, supporting personnel, and money. New reports say that the three-time Defensive Player of the Year has received contract offers from multiple teams, and the most lucrative offer is believed to be in the $15 to $16 million range. Greg Jennings, is Watt still worth $15 million for a contender?
So I'm going to be honest. I've always been pro player, and I'm not going to try to take money away from J.J. Watt. But if I was a general manager, I'm not paying him that much. But if he going to get it, go get it, my friend. Simply put, I think teams are willing to pay that much because when you watch the film and you turn on the tape of J.J. Watt, we want to talk about his years and his longevity in this league and that taking away from some of his production. But the reality is, on that defensive line, he had no help. He had no one that could really create space for him to be what he has been for the duration of his career. And so when you start to get older, it's like if you can't produce without having assistance of others alongside you, then are you really worth that price tag? And that's where I would come from. And so with that being said, I would say no. However, there are teams that are going to be desperate enough and turn on the tape because he's very productive. And if they feel like they have pieces that can go alongside of him, then they're going to make that offer. And let's be clear, that 15, 16 million a year, it seems like a lot. But for what he was making and for what these guys are making now at that position, it's not a whole lot of money.
He was released. He had a meeting with the front office, the McNair family. Can I please go so I can have a chance to win? To the fans and the people of Houston, Texas, we've let you down. We didn't come to work to win Super Bowls. I don't know what we did. We didn't show up with our helmets. They stayed and remained in the locker rooms. But now I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on from this place that I love so much and you love me so much. I'm going to move on because I would like to win. If your true essence of leaving a place where you are the most beloved player of all time, I'm not going to a franchise for the money. I'm not leaving for the money. And if I make it about the money, then it totally, really in a lot of ways, it disqualifies a lot of the things that he's used as deflections or justifications of things that have taken place in Houston. You've made your money. And I don't want to be anybody's pocket either. I don't count your bank account. I don't care. But you said you wanted to be released to have a chance to win at this point in your career. So $15 million, if he's getting offered $15 million, that deal's already signed. We're talking about where he's going. That's first and foremost. Shot fired, duck gone. All right? The duck hunt, that duck is out of here. But when you look at what J.J. Watt is trying to do, if he goes to a team that is in contention for a Super Bowl, like a Tampa Bay, like a Kansas City, right? You're not going to be the main player on those teams. You go to a L.A., come to the Rams. You're not going to be the main focal point on any of these competitive teams' defensive fronts. So you're not going to command that type of dollar. So when I look at it, you may be able to go to one of these teams that needs some help. You may want to go to a place like Jacksonville. You could be used there. Anywhere where there could be leadership roles. But in a place where you're a contending team, you're not going to be able to command that type of dollar.
They don't have the money. I mean, we're talking about Tampa Bay having to sign Levante David, Shaq Barrett, so on and so forth. I mean, they don't have the money to go get J.J. Watt. Pittsburgh, I know we're not considering them a contender, but, that's been mentioned. They don't have that money. Green Bay, they don't have that money. Like, the contending teams aren't going to have that money to give to him. So I don't think he's getting that. Now, maybe incentive-based, $5 million base, $7 million base or something like that. And then if you get to the Super Bowl, you make all-pro, all that stuff, sure. But base salary, I can't see him getting that much.
Greg Jennings, does he have a better chance if he goes to Tampa to win a Super Bowl or Kansas City? You know I'm on board with the Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl next year.
No mercy.
The Cowboys are among 5 teams that could appear on HBO's Hard Knocks this fall. Dallas has no shortage of storylines, including Dak Prescott's injury recovery, looming contract extension. Meanwhile, NFL Networks thinks the Jags could volunteer for an appearance with first-year head coach and our guy, Urban Meyer. Plus, potential first overall pick Trevor Lawrence possibly taking his talents to Jacksonville. LeVar, who would you rather see on the show, Dallas or Jacksonville?
Easily Jacksonville. I love the storylines in Dallas for certain. There's a lot of them. But Urban Meyer is always one. And I want to see if he can do it at the pro level. I played for Steve Spurrier and saw how that ended. I would love to see how Urban Meyer is. A lot of people have mixed emotions on what they feel about him. I've gotten to know him since being here at Fox. He's an awesome dude to be around, and I would love to be able to see behind the curtain on how he builds such amazing teams. And if it's going to work out,
I'm actually with you. I like the Jacksonville, watching Urban Meyer potentially with the first pick of the draft and Trevor Lawrence and how that relationship starts to grow and what he's going to do to really take this organization and this franchise from bottom to top, because that's what we've seen him do his entire career wherever he's been. LeVar, you alluded to it. Yes, Dallas would be excellent. They have a lot of storylines with Dak and Jerry Jones. They're going to give you a lot of flash, Ezekiel Elliott, and so many more. But I just like what Urban Meyer brings to the table. And then, like you said too, LeVar, there's controversy. There's the hiring and all the things that are kind of swirling around Urban Meyer. But he's been a successful coach pretty much wherever he's been when he's been in charge. I would like to see that.
Come on, Broussard.
Well, we've been talking about it all show. So if Dallas got Russell Wilson, I'll say the Cowboys. I'd love to see that. But if they don't, if they just bring back Dak, that's still interesting and intriguing. But I am with you guys. Look, the fact is college coaches have struggled in the NFL. You mentioned Spurrier, LeVar. We got Nick Saban, the greatest college coach ever. He didn't have success in the NFL. You have to treat these guys differently. I'd like to see how Urban toes that line in training camp. Obviously, you want to see Trevor Lawrence as well. So I'm with you guys, Jacksonville.
I got to pick Dallas. I don't want to wish hard knocks on Urban Meyer in his first year coaching in the NFL. That's just not fair. That's not right. He doesn't need that. Give the man a chance, LeVar. All right, everybody. Hey, we had a phenomenal week. That's it for us. LeVar, Chris, Greg. Hey, we'll see you guys 9:30 Monday.